Witchy Vlogmas Day 20. We made it. I made it. Day 20. Day 20. 20 days. I don't know if you know this, but there is something that I like to think of the Vlogmas curse. Lots of things tend to go wrong when you choose to do Vlogmas. I don't know what that's about, but I've seen it show up for other people, and it has definitely shown up for me the first time I did an entire Vlogmas. Holy hell, broke loose. This time too. I haven't shared all that with you, but I feel a tremendous sense of empowerment and accomplishment. I feel like I'm crossing a major finish line right here. So just a little bit about me. I'm super excited about that. I'm feeling good about it. Hi, Carol and Morgan. Yay, I'm so glad you're here. Anita. I'll be watching as I work to get the small mound of wax on my carpet. Good times. Sierra is here. Oh my gosh, Sierra, I feel like you've been here almost every day, if not every day. That is so rad. Tar Apple, good morning. Hi, there's a name I haven't seen yet. Janine, Phoebe, hello. Hello, witches, says Savannah. And B. Hi, Joanna. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi. So I wanted to end Vlogmas maybe with a little preview of where I'm going in 2019. I want to talk about, not entirely, that's not what this whole thing is going to be about, but I am going to touch on something I've sprinkled throughout Vlogmas, is this idea of like God. I put it in all caps on social media this morning saying the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. And what does that mean? I've always been a person, not always, but once I came to my own understanding of the upbringing I had as a Christian, growing up in a Mennonite Brethren Christian home, very, 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 very religious, still is. I'm the only one out of a large, huge family that decided to leave that paradigm. But making sense of all of those messages to me ultimately landed in a place where, to me, heaven or hell was about you create your own heaven and hell on earth. A lot of the messaging that I received when I first got into the New Age movement was way too much for me. It was offensive. I mean, I didn't feel like I'm offensive. I'm offended, like clutching my pearls about it. But I felt like, kind of like I felt when I got my first tarot deck. Like, is this okay? Are we all just going to like spontaneously combust for having this thought? And it's this thought that runs through the New Thought movement, which is actually having a resurgence, which is really interesting because the New Thought movement kind of gave way to the law of attraction. And now I hear people using this term. I don't know if it's because I started talking about the New Thought movement on Patreon. And so I just started noticing other people talk about it. You know, like once you're aware of something, you become super aware of it. Or if this is really a trend that's happening. But truly, the core of it, what they leave out of the law of attraction teachings is that you are God. You are God. You are God, experience God. This is why I see God as an energy, not a man or a woman. Feel free to replace this with the universe, source energy, goddess, whatever resonates with you. Of course, God is a goddess because God is you, and you might be a woman. But I also believe God is a dog and God is a tree. And because you are God, this is the part that gets really freaky. You act and you are creating your life all the time. And I am definitely a person who says co-create because we're in this business together. We are co-creating with nature, with each other. I can see I'm cutting out here a little bit. Hopefully you, maybe I'm offending the gods of YouTube by going there. But I just wanted to set this up by saying that's the perspective that I am coming from today when I talk about you hold the keys to the kingdom, because the kingdom is your own life. The domain that I want to talk about today is your body and your mind and your home and your friendships and your money. It's your entire life. That's your domain to do with what you will. I believe we have free will. And again, I do believe we are working within this 3D reality, right? Where we have to deal with Mother Nature, the laws of Mother Nature, other people. Although I do strongly, strongly hold the belief that our relationships with other people are reflecting the kingdom within. So it starts getting like really complex. But I just want to start with this basic, highly offensive idea that the kingdom of God is within you, and you have been granted like full domain over this life you have been given, which is finite. It's not forever. And how you rule your kingdom is largely up to you. So let's see if anybody's upset here. Nature is God. We are nature. Yes, I 100% agree with that. I totally agree. Alicia says, my daughter is watching Sabrina, the animated series, Witch in Training. Witch in Training. A funny joke came to mind too when I just said, you know, God is in a tree and God is in everything, right? Bear with me if you've heard me tell this joke before, because I've definitely told it before. It's one of my favorites. But when you take care of a dog, when you pick up a dog's poop, when you feed a dog, the dog is like, you must be God. And when you feed a cat and you pick up a cat's poop, the cat is like, I must be God. And I love that. I love that because it's like such a paradigm shift, right? Like dogs are very, and this is, I'm not trying to offend the dog people here, but, you know, the cliche of a dog is dogs are easily trained. Dogs are very obedient, you know, and cats are like, fuck you, I do what I want. So I love that as a funny paradigm that's a little bit instructive about how you see the world and how creating a mind shift can actually alter the landscape of your kingdom. So I'm going to be talking about your kingdom today. If you're a woman, you can see this as your queendom. I have seen it said that in a similar way, a similar mindset shift, I've heard it presented as being the CEO of your own life, of you Inc. or me Inc. There have been books written on this and many articles on me Inc. It's a good one for the corporate world, I think, if you're in a corporate world, to think of yourself as your own corporation. You'll hear people talking about being your own brand, which is another thing I feel aligned with, is I have a personal brand. Literally, that's how I pay my bills. I am Joanna DeVoe, and I am Joanna DeVoe. I have a personal brand. So that resonates with me. You will hear people talking about like a boss. I'm doing this like a boss. I'm doing that like a boss. Boss babe. Be the boss of your own life. The in style covers, like how to, I forget what the exact thing. It's right here, actually. Start 2019 like a boss. I prefer kings and queens when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I'm a queen witch. This is something that I'm working with right now. And witchy people, we are people that when you get to the bottom of it, it's all exciting and fun when you first get into like magic and I can make things happen with my mind and all the spells and all the incense and all the candles and like getting into a new religion. If you find Wicca, that's all very cool. But when you start getting beneath it, this is true of any religion. If you dig down underneath Christianity, you'll find mystic Christianity. You will find this all over all kinds of different Eastern philosophies. You get to this place where you start to realize that the real magic and the real change happens when you experience a change within. And that the more you get in touch with this idea that the internal landscape of your life has a direct impact on the external landscape of your life, that's when you really, really start moving into your own personal power. And, you know, if you've ever tried to learn how to meditate, for example, it's a really powerful lesson in how, like, for a lot of us, for most of us, we have not taken the keys of the kingdom. We have not accepted the fact that we have dominion over our own lives, because we don't even have dominion over our own thoughts. It's like our thoughts are thinking us, and trying to actually even just silence them for a moment can be a years-long practice for many, many people. And so to me, when I'm talking about, you know, it's more interesting and more dynamic to talk about being the king or the queen of your own life, as opposed to being the CEO or your own brand or a boss. Because when I think of being a boss, a CEO, or your own brand, I'm thinking about power over. And when I think about being a king or a queen, immediately what comes to mind for me is tarot cards. And the queens and the kings, the court cards that are in every tarot deck, every traditional tarot deck. And which is actually what led me to working with the queen archetype, is seeing Athena, who I was working with Athena as an archetype, and seeing her as just another lens through working with the Queen of Swords. And slowly I just gravitated over toward this whole idea of being a queen, and what does it mean to be the queen of your own life? Because we live in this 3D reality here with other people, we do have these hierarchical structures in place. I also think that learning to empower yourself from within is really powerful when you are engaged in the game of life. Whereas if you are just coming at it from a power over position, the game of life will kick your ass. So, Alicia, my cats are definitely spoiled gods. Karen says, yes, I am a dog, but trying to bring in the archetype of the cat. I'm so glad you guys get where I'm coming from here. So thinking about your life as a kingdom is really interesting, and thinking about yourself is like, what is it? I don't want to get religious here, but I have definitely come all the way back around through, like, completely rejecting everything I was raised on, to kind of going back to my roots from a totally new paradigm. And it was actually here, what is in Luke 17:20 in the Bible, it was Jesus who said the kingdom of God is within. It's within. And some Pharisee was questioning him about, like, when is this kingdom of God going to arrive? And he's like, dude, it's already here. And it's really weird for me to go through this whole, like, personal development, new age movement, witchcraft, Wicca, you know, all the Eastern philosophies, to actually come back around and be like, we have treated Jesus like crap. And it reminds me of, is it Gandhi who said, like, I have no problem with your Jesus. I love Jesus. Jesus is cool with me. It's your Christians I have a problem with. And I think what happened is we had this super groovy hippie dude that was teaching us these amazing things that you can also learn, again, from all these different Eastern philosophies. Certain branches of Buddhism will teach you this. And then the church got a hold of this and created this dogma of fear and all these rules and this patriarchy that impacts everyone's life, even the people at the tippy top, but men, women, children, animals. When you're raised a Christian, you're taught that God gave man dominion over animals, and man has dominion over women, and women have dominion over kids. And it's all this, like, weird power over structure. And that has been misinterpreted, in my opinion, to be like, do whatever you want with it. Screw nature over. It's yours. Plunder it. Do what you want. Whereas I think the real message was, this is yours. This is your world. Take care of it. Cherish it. Love it. Learn to have an interdependent relationship with it. And we miss that message altogether. So when I hear about, like, I guess I like to pick challenging things, because dominion is I have a little etymology moment here that I cut and pasted the word dominion. It's very challenging. I know a lot of people don't like the word queen because of all of the implications, you know, of like the imagery that we've had in movies and TV and throughout history of people abusing power. And I really want to emphasize, I am talking about power from within. I am not talking about power over, which you cannot win. And I will try to get back to that and get more into that. But etymology.com says dominion, which is from the 15th century, is lordship. Your lord. I find that very triggering. Sovereign or supreme authority. Sovereignty is very interesting to me. I have been talking about sovereignty for years. Long before I created the Queen program, I was really interested in this idea of personal sovereignty, which again begins with, like, how can you even have real sovereignty out in the world if you don't even have sovereignty over your own heart and mind, over what's going on in your own system, right? And I don't think, again, the power over dynamic, I'm not saying it's your job to control all your thoughts and to control all your emotions and to control your body. Control is a power over dynamic, and nobody wins ultimately in the end, including when you're dealing with your own mind and body. I believe, again, just as I was saying about nature, about having dominion over the animal kingdom, seeing your body as the soft animal of your body, having dominion over it is about respecting it, taking care of it, and listening to it so that you can receive the messages of your body. To me, that's what I'm talking about. You guys are in a mood. This is funny. There's lots of joking around here today. Karen, B made a YouTube account just for us today to join in the Vlogmas combo. Yay, B. I remember you saying you were going to do that. I'm so glad you made it for the last one. And you're a queen, B. You're going through the queen program with us at the beginning of the year. Raise your hand if you have done the queen program or you're doing the queen program in 2019. So I can give you a shout out. Gotta pause to feed my horse gods. I love that, Sarah. It's so interesting when you think about the God in all things, when you are dealing with a horse or a dog or a cat or your child who's having a temper tantrum on the floor. Backtracking a bit and coalescing all of the belief systems. Yeah, I think that's always been interesting to me when I've explored all the different religions, is how if you scratch below the surface, they have all these common truths. There's this common thread and messaging that you'll find underneath all of the weird dogma. Like, each religion has its own special set of rules and dogma. And when you get underneath that, though, there's this mystic truth, this metaphysical truth. There are these things that run throughout all of them. And maybe that's because we all know deep down inside what we've been taught to forget. And mystics are these people who remember, right? And who are trying to teach us these truths. And so we beat them and we torture them and we hang them on a cross, you know, because it's painful, because it's in such stark contrast to what we've been raised to believe. Scotland. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you just gave me a total opening there, Carol. Hello from Scotland. I can't wait to see Mary, Queen of Scots. And that is something I wanted to talk about because I just saw The Favorite, which is about Queen Anne. When I was talking about movies during my favorite things episode, I didn't even mention my two favorite movies of the year, which was Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm so glad I get to shout it out right now. Bohemian Rhapsody and A Star is Born. I may get into talking about that later too here, because I actually think those two stories are actually very instructive in terms of what it means to be the king or the queen of your own life, and to think of yourself as being not the ruler over everything, although if that floats your boat, that's fine. But I'm talking about taking responsibility for all of it, owning it and taking responsibility for it. But when it's interesting to me, people that myself included, when you get into witch stuff, when you get into the witch stuff, a lot of us want to like go back, like we want to bypass our mom, our dad, our grandma, our grandpa, our great-grandma, our great-grandpa, and go all the way back to like these ancient roots that we think must have been a happier reality. We want to go all the way back to like the old country, to the ancient ways and all of this. And it's funny, sometimes that gets really twisted and presented as like this utopia where everybody lived in peace. And I really don't think it was like that. But it's interesting, this desire to get back to your roots, even as you're denying the very roots that gave life to you, your mother, your father, your grandparents, and all of that. And we reject, maybe this is part of the spiritual individuation process, is to reject all that to find yourself. But it's really weird when you start finding yourself going back to those roots. And for me, like just starting to go back around to Jesus and being like, I think we had Jesus all wrong. I think he was a witch. I think he was a magician. I think he was a magic man. I think he was trying to teach us this idea that you create your own heaven and hell on earth. And when he said, you know, I am my father, which was so confusing to me as a child, like, how can you be Jesus and God at the same time? You know, I think he was trying to say, I am my father. And so are you, you know, and even the use of the word father is so off-putting to those of us who have left and are trying to untangle ourselves from like these old dogmatic religions and this patriarchy that it's just here and so present for all of us. And I am just going on a wild ramble. I can't seem to stick on any one thing. So I hope you guys are all following me. Jesus is a magic man. Haha. I bought, I can't think of the exact name of it. Savior of the world is what it means, but in Latin, it's Salvator Mundi. It's Leonardo da Vinci's painting of Jesus is rad. He looks very androgynous. He looks like neither man nor woman, really. He's a very feminine man, maybe. And he's holding this clear globe. And I had to have it. It was in the news because somebody bought that painting for $750 million. I was like, I also want that painting, but I do not have $750 million. But I did buy a very nice canvas reproduction. And this Jesus is at the highest, most prominent point in my living room. I look at it and I think about it all the time. And in relationship to what I'm talking about today, I think it's, you know, your world is in your hands. Like he's literally holding this world in his hands. And I think about that when I'm staring at that picture. But what I was trying to say about going back to your pagan roots and then exploring all this old mythology that so many of us love to do. Women love the book by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Women Who Run with the Wolves. It really helps, gives you a grasp of this mythology that has been with us for hundreds and hundreds of years. We are a community who loves to explore ancient mythology. That's a big thing. But again, let's not miss the mythology that we're steeped in right now. Go to the movies. I'm a movie freak. But go to the movies, check it out. Turn on HBO or Netflix. Look what is going on. It's kings and queens everywhere and superheroes. And it's this whole like power over dynamic that is so engaging to us. Like who's going to win? Who's going to lose? This person won. This person lost. And like even with sports, it's like who's going to win? Who's going to lose? We're constantly enraptured by this power over dynamic. And it's really interesting when you get into like Game of Thrones or the movie I just saw, The Favorite. It's this power struggle and nobody is safe. Everybody is always looking over their shoulder because they're so concerned with this idea of power over and who will hold the keys to the kingdom and who will have domain over this kingdom. Will it be me? It must be me. I must have control. So you win control and you're super like, yes. And even as you're celebrating that moment, you're looking over your shoulder like, who's going to come take it from me? And how many more seconds do I get to enjoy this before somebody chops my head off? This is human history, and our mythology. Like, we are constantly exploring this all the time, And I have found that it's very, very interesting to go to one of these movies, and you've probably heard people talk about how in your dreams, when you're dreaming, all the characters are you. It's just a way for your mind to work shit out, right? So all the characters are in the dream are you. So when you go to the movies, next time you go to a movie with kings and queens in it, or even a movie about like corporate America and this whole power over dynamic where people are stabbing each other in the back and stuff, start looking at it as like, what if all these characters were acting out this idea of coming to grips with power within and all the different parts of you that like fight for control, and how ultimately it's a successful ending when people learn to become interdependent. So that would be when you learn to become interdependent with your environment and with all the different components and conflicting beliefs and ideas that you have within. That's when you have a nice, peaceful ending, right? But more often than not, it's a tragic ending. And it can be really instructive when you go to a movie and you're like, I am here for the power within mythology. What can I learn from this? It changes everything. Like Star Wars is a perfect example. Watch Star Wars from this perspective, and it'll blow your mind. It's super interesting. And it's a fun way to approach spirituality. This is why I'm a fan of pop pantheons, because so many people, like, we just reject religion so thoroughly and completely. We don't want to hear the God word. We don't want to hear anything about religious anything. But, movies are fun, right? Sometimes there's sex. Sometimes there's like all these like fun secular things that we can get into, but humans are creating these things, and humans are divine beings. And so you will find these messages in almost everything. It's fascinating. Movies are so revealing of society, and nothing is new. That's what's funny too. Even as we get all of this technology, we're so privileged to be able to just like at the click of a button, make almost anything happen. We still struggle with these age-old things. And I think too, when we're talking about different levels of freedom, as people are trying to tear down these old patriarchal structures, which, God, they're holding on tight. Like, even as you are fighting for your right to marry who you want to marry and love who you want to love, I can't believe there's still like a large chunk of the world thinks that you should not be able to marry whoever you want to marry. It's just so bizarre. So even if you're fighting over like the rights of your own body, the rights to do with your life what you want to do, to love who you want to love, we have all these other freedoms that we have been granted. Women can now join the workforce. We can all say our piece on the internet and express ourselves. We can shout and yell at our politicians and hold up signs and slow down traffic. Like, there's a lot of freedom in that. And I feel like the more freedom we get, sometimes the more untethered we get. Because back in the day, you were way back in the day. We're talking going back to the kings and queens and castles and villages days. You were a cog in someone else's wheel in a way you may still think you are today. But I'm telling you, way back in the day, you were born into your station in life, and you stayed in your station in life, and you learned to deal with it. And life was laborious for most people. It was very much about survival. It was very labor driven. You worked, you woke up, you did your work, you did your business. You might spend some time with your family, you go to bed, and you do it all over again. Now that we are so far past, you know, the dawn of the industrial age, and we have all of this freedom, we're like, woo, like we don't even know what to do with all the freedom. We're like so cut loose that I think we can get paralyzed by the choice. Like so many choices are paralyzing for people. And again, I can bring this back around to TV and movies because I can bring almost everything back around to that. Like back in the day, there were 4 or 5 movies playing and you probably went to go see them all, right? Now you go and you look and you're like, there's all these movies playing and they're going to be gone next week. And then all this other big batch of movies is going to be playing. Or you turn your TV on and there's like 82 million different channels and you can't even decide which to go. Like we have so much freedom. It's paralyzing. It's paralyzing. You know, whereas our grandparents turned on TV and I Love Lucy was on and they were like, yes, I will watch I Love Lucy with the whole world. So we've been granted so much freedom. And I'm talking about in the secular world, that it's only going to be through learning to have true domain over your own internal reality can you fully take advantage of everything that you have been given and afforded. And if you heard the podcast episode I did where I was talking about gratitude as a method to being able to receive, I don't think we are receiving like 90% of what we have been given. We're living like such a tiny little chunk of our privilege. And I think to let go of all the inner neuroses and all the weird mind games and all the weird power over internal struggles that we have is to step more fully into our freedom and to feel that you're safe and you're okay. It's okay to be you. It's okay to move about from this place of freedom because you have this internal sense of righteousness, to use another religious term. You have the right to be here. You have the right to co-create your reality. You have the right to make your world what you want it to be. Dogma is another good one for religious humor. I haven't seen that, Sierra, but she says the immediate film that comes to mind, Monty Python's Life of Brian. I'm aware of it, but I've never seen it. You guys are joking around too. I'm missing a lot of the jokes. I only see like the end. Carol's like, my toe is out. I'm like, what does that even mean? So, I guess what I'm trying to encourage you to do too is to start here, right? And then you start you can start expanding your kingdom if you start up here, if you start in the domain of your own mind and taking responsibility for what's going on between your ears. I don't want to say control because control is a power over dynamic. I'm talking about taking responsibility. And again, when you break that word in half, it's the ability to respond, right? So how do you respond to what's going on between your ears? Are you concerned? Are you in some kind of weird power play dynamic in your mind with a frenemy you have, or a good friend, or a coworker, or someone? Like, how much of that is ping-ponging and around in your head all of the time? How many of your thoughts are based on gratitude? How many of your thoughts are peaceful? Once you get the hang of that whole realm, you learn to meditate, you learn to get some agency within your own head, then you can start going out and examining like the kingdom of your body. So maybe your head is like the high tower of the castle and your body is the castle. And you start thinking about being able to respond to the messages of your body, to recognize, is this a message of fear? Is this a message of pain? Is this a message of pleasure? Is this a message of desire? And to start making like sovereign decisions about these things. Once you have a sense of dominion over all you've got going on in here with your own body and mind, you get to start branching out into the larger kingdom, the village that is your home. and your family, the actual property you live on, your car. I know this is getting like super out there, but I'm telling you, when you start thinking about your life this way, it gets really, really interesting. When you divide your life into your health. And again, do this for the new year too. Like when you're creating your vision for 2019, see if you can really like break the kingdom of your life into these different components: health and fitness, finance, friendship, romance, family, your home, your business, your creativity, all the different realms of your kingdom. How do you manage all of that? It can be really overwhelming when you look at that. Like, how am I supposed to do all of this? And I think this is one of the things about an hierarchical, patriarchal society is we have all been infantilized out of our own sovereignty. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. Somebody else will do it for us, right? Or, you know, people get into a power dynamic where they're like, I'll do everything myself. I don't need anybody to help me. You know, you get into this martyr thing. It's like, I am like super, super self-sufficient. And you end up burning yourself out or feeling a great sense of loneliness, whereas I think being the king or queen of your own life is about interdependence and learning to really build connections with people and learning to build relationships with people in a win-win way, not with a power dynamic. And that takes time. You have to build trust. And because we've all been raised in this situation, you know, we might all start out looking over your shoulders. And, gosh, there's so many different directions I can go with this. I guess I'll just have to continue talking about this another time and elsewhere. And you feel free to ask me any questions that you want to. I love your ideas on this kingdom, Joanna. I found you in 2015 when I first became a witch, and your videos have definitely changed some paradigms for me. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. That's awesome. Sierra says that's awesome. That's one of my favorite things to do. I'm a firm believer in change your mind, change your life. I might even be redoing my little podcast opening song because I think I have really connected in with this idea that I don't see myself breaking out of anytime soon. I'm really, of course, the second you define yourself, it's time to redefine yourself. But Sierra says the conversation reminds me of, oh gosh, why the names I can't pronounce? Naama Segal, the Jew witch. Totally look her up or listen to some podcast she's been on. She is amazing. That's cool. Okay, so I'll give you an example here. I got this email this morning and I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. So, Kendra wrote to me, and I got this very early this morning. She says, I have recently discovered your podcast and am now binge podcasting and trying to catch up on all the amazing things you have created, including your free 3-video set, You Are a Queen. I wanted to tell you about a queen experience that I had this week. Okay, so this experience that I'm about to read to you, I've had so many of these since I started seeing myself as the queen of my own life. I think people come to the king or the queen archetype for different reasons. My reason is I was a damsel in distress. I was so infantilized and so convinced that I needed other people to take care of me that I didn't know how to take care of myself pretty much across the board. I've had to learn how to do everything myself. And I didn't have a clue. And I had so much fear because I didn't know what to do that I would get paralyzed and all that stuff. So this is a really good story. She says, last Saturday afternoon, the screen for my home's digital thermostat was blank. My partner waved it off. Basically, he said that he would look into it later if it became a problem. It's December and I'm in Canada. I was very concerned. There might have been some Muppet arm flailing. Instead of waiting for him and getting angry and upset, I Googled Honeywell thermostat and found out that a possible issue was the batteries. I used a screwdriver. This is very important for those of us who had this sort of like damsel in distress too. The first time you get your own tools. I have a power drill that makes me feel like I am the queen of my own life. It's so exciting when you spend like 3 decades never having picked up a tool. Anyway, she said, I used a screwdriver to open the box, and the 2 expired AAA batteries were pretty corroded. Once the batteries were replaced, the screen came back on, and I felt pretty amazing until later in the evening when I came home to a cold house. The heat wasn't kicking on. I felt really disheartened. I thought I had fixed it. I was wrong. So I phoned my partner, and he said he would worry about it in the morning. Remembering that I am a queen and I don't need a guy to help me, I again used the power of Google. Evidently, the batteries in our particular thermostat are only there if the power is out. I flipped every single breaker in the house to no success. When I went into the furnace room, I found out the real problem. Someone had inadvertently turned the furnace switch off. It ended up being a stupidly easy fix, even if it hadn't been, though I still had the power to call an electrician. And next time, I'll check the switch first. Looking forward to creating the kick-ass life of my dreams, Kendra. Some of you might be hearing that and being like, seriously? I read that and I was like, oh my God, I have so many stories like that. I have so been there. I have so been there so many times with so many different things. What do you do when you get a flat tire, ladies? Are you listening? Do you know how to change a flat tire on your car? I'm sure some of you are going to be like, I do, and I will yell queen at you if you can change a flat tire on your car. My recent thing was dead animals. We had the possum experience, but also my cat Steve bringing like mice into the house and things like that, and realizing like there's not a man to get this dead mouse out of my house. I'm going to have to do this myself. There's a big hairy spider in the bathtub. What do I do? And why do we expect men to do that? That is where too, like I'm saying, the patriarchy impacts everyone. Men, and this creates a vicious cycle. Men are trained and conditioned out of their emotions. They're taught that it's powerful and strong to not feel their feelings. So ultimately, they get to a place where they don't feel their feelings anymore. And they are taught a lot of weird, violent control things, you know. I don't know how to put that, because I really actually don't like the term toxic masculinity, but they're taught these weird competitive ideas about life, and then they end up hurting each other that way, hurting women. Women are supposed to be the keepers of the emotion. That's supposed to be our little realm that we get to have. Men have the spider squishing realm, and then we end up hurting each other. They're all numbed out. We're feeling our feelings to like the nth degree, and we're hurting each other and going in circles. I also think, again, with the movies and me, of the movie Mr. Mom, which you know, early on, the 80s, they were trying to like work this shit out in the best way they could in the 80s. And they had this switch where the mom and dad switch roles. Michael Keaton plays the mom, and he becomes Mr. Mom while the woman goes off into corporate America to support the family. And there's this scene where that movie is an awesome movie about how patriarchy affects everybody. If you ever want to watch Mr. Mom again, if you've never seen it before, check it out. They really explore like the cliches of femininity and the cliches of masculinity and the hierarchy of the corporate world. It's awesome. And how people stab each other in the back. But his wife is like, has a nice position in the corporate world, and her boss is a creep. And he has this annual party at his house to show off his wealth and his mansion, and everybody that works for the company, all the men that work for his company, but also the husbands of the women that work for his company are expected to compete in these games, these really silly games on the grounds of his property. But everybody knows he has to win. He has to win. Nobody can beat the boss, right? And so Michael Keaton is like all geared up. It's a really silly game. They're wearing like flippers on their feet, and it's an obstacle course and really goofy. And Michael Keaton is he's been through some shit. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. And so he's kicking the boss's butt, and he's actually winning. And the people on the sidelines are like, what is he doing? And his wife goes, winning. And then there's this moment right before he's about to cross the finish line where he looks over at her and he's like, and he pretends to fall so that the boss can win. And then the boss is like, yes, I am the winner. And they're lifting him up and like he's celebrating. And it's so gross. It's so gross. It pisses me off. That's one of my favorite movies, by the way. But to me, when I talk about like interdependence and I talk so much about the queen, I have a lot of men that listen to my podcast. I have men that show up here, and I don't want my messaging to only be for women, because this is about all of us. And a lot of us are in relationship, men with women. And there's an interdependence that needs to happen. And when we learn to respect each other in an authentic way, where men are allowed to be totally authentically who they are with all their feelings and their femininity and whatever else they have going on intact. And then we are allowed to like discover our power and our screwdriver and whatever else. It expands our own personal kingdoms. And I truly believe that having dominion over your kingdom is going to involve other people, again, because we are co-creating our reality. When I started working with the queen archetype, I had this really weird switch. It just occurred to me all of a sudden, and everything looked different when I started thinking about, I always felt like I was in trouble or like I was doing something wrong. Or if I had to go see a doctor or even somebody to help my son, it was like I just handed my authority over and I waited to be told how it was going to be. And then when I started working with the queen archetype, however long into it, I started having this idea like, wait a minute, these people are in the service industry. They're here to serve me. And I wasn't thinking of it as the cat, like I am God kind of thing. It was just allowing myself to receive this service that these people are in business to provide. And it went all the way down to like a doorman who stands at a hotel and opens the door for you. Or if you any little thing that you go to where people are in the service industry, I will get in line to have my bags groceryed by to have my groceries bagged by an actual human person. I like that human interaction, but I for so long did not feel worthy of receiving service from any other people. I was so into like having a service mindset and of being of service in my life and serving with my life, but I wasn't allowing myself to receive that. And that was a major thing. Anita, I could tell stories of conversations I've had with the huge wolf spiders. It's rather alarming to see them in the house. I give them a choice, outside or end up in one of my baneful brews. Oh, that is quite the choice. Anita says, I'm the spider whisperer in my house. My young man's stepsons have me take care of the spiders. I just escort the little beings outside. Savannah, I totally understand the damsel in distress. I struggle with this still so much. And yes, it's a process. That's why I'm still flapping my gums about the queen archetype, because I'm constantly, and there's a gnat, I'm constantly learning, always. You don't spend decades of your life living in one paradigm with a certain dogma and a certain conditioning and a certain kind of programming going on. And then just one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm the queen of my life. It's just not like that. It's a process. That's why the queen program is 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks. And I'll just completely blatantly plug that right now. If you've ever wanted to work with me, this is the cheapest way to do it. It's 5 weeks. It's $120. And I'm about to raise the price to $200. This is the last time it'll be $120. It's a little bit more than a coaching call, but you get 5 weeks to like launch yourself into working with this archetype in a really powerful way. Somebody asked on the last love stream we did here. I forget who, I'm sorry, I can't remember who asked this, but it was, where is the queen program? It's in your inbox. So every 3 days you get a new email, you get audio. It's mostly audio recordings. There's a few videos. The Facebook group is optional. About 25% of people opt not to do it because they hate Facebook, and I don't blame them for that. But I really love the Facebook group, even though I don't love Facebook, because it's just a chance to cheer each other on and to ask any questions and to get to meet awesome people like Karen and Sierra, who have been popping into these things saying like, join us for the Queen. They're my most amazing proponents. I love that. Molly's been in here saying that. And so email me. Oh, I want to say too, I'm going to do a bonus this year for anybody who does the Queen program. It's the last time I'm offering it for $120, and I'm offering a bonus, and it's going to be a love stream, but a long one of private just for the Queens, to launch 2019 and to really work on your vision. So we'll be talking about envisioning and planning, you know, what you want 2019 to be for your life. What would it look like if you were the queen of your own life? And that's going to happen on the 26th, the day after Christmas. So if you want to be a part of that, we're doing it on the 26th. So join us, and the link is down below, my friends. Sierra, hell yes, Joe, raise that price. I will be here to back you up that it's 100% worth it. Thank you. And that's a Queen thing too. That's what I was talking about, like money and things like that. I said last time I was going to raise the price, and then I didn't. And that was because I was afraid. That was because I feel that that it's more, $200 is more than fair. But I had a lot of fear around that. And I think the Queen archetype has been so powerful for me in my own business. And I don't even think I would have gotten to that archetype if I didn't have my own business. Because when you have a personal brand online and you're sharing your own thoughts and feelings and your own life experience, you open yourself up to criticism from other people. You have to see yourself on camera. You have to hear your voice. And it's very confrontational. And it strengthens you, or you just give up and go away. But in my case, it strengthened me. It allowed me to feel and look at so many different fears and insecurities that I had. And I'm still doing it all the time. And I've learned to be transparent about it, because this whole idea of creating the kick-ass life of your dreams, it's something that I want for you. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you create the kick-ass life of your dreams. And I love the idea that I can create the kick-ass life of my dreams. And the more transparent I am about what that looks like for me, the more helpful it is for you and for us all. You know, because a lot of people come to me for BizWitch coaching. They want to know how to have their own online business. And I've been doing this for quite a few years now, so I can share transparently what it's actually like, instead of presenting this really, really perfect airbrushed Instagram version. I just can't see myself as ever being one of those people that's like, how to have a 7-figure life, you know, and then I go and I rent the Ferrari, and then I make the YouTube commercial, you know, the commercials that air before like law of attraction videos and personal development videos where I'm walking through my mansion. And maybe if I ever get there, but if I get there, if I'm living a 7-figure a year life and I'm driving a Ferrari, which Ferraris aren't my thing, but if I were, you would be gone along the process with me. You would have been like, oh, I remember when that lady had bed bugs. I remember when that lady said she was having a hard time making more than $5,000 a month because she had reached the upper limit. I remember when that lady was cleaning possum diarrhea off the wall. I want to say, being the king or the queen of your own life, being a kick-ass witch, it's not an escape hatch. There's no escape from this 3D reality. We're in it, people. It's about how you respond to life. It's your ability to respond. That's what I mean by taking responsibility. It's when life gets really hairy, when the big hairy wolf spider gets there, it's like, ah! It's not freaking out. It's not laying down and giving up. It's not going into victim mode where everybody's out to get you and you're blaming other people, which is giving other people authority over your own life. It's saying, I am responsible for this. Here I am in the bathroom I have to pee and there's a giant spider on the toilet. This is my life. You know? Savannah, we appreciate the transparency so much. Yay. It's such a relief too. It's so, that's another thing about like power over and feeling like you have to put this image out. It's exhausting. Worrying that people are going to find you out. I think a lot of imposter syndrome comes from that. I know people suffer from imposter syndrome who are living very authentically, that this is something that we all can experience. But can you imagine the imposter syndrome if you're making these YouTube videos trying to teach people how to be a millionaire? Meanwhile, you're living like in a studio apartment in Hollywood and you just rented that Ferrari and like your best friend is filming you driving down the road. The terror that someone's going to find you out, always looking over your shoulder. That's why the king and the queen archetype is so interesting to me, because we have all these stories and movies and books and mythologies going back through the ages that we can look to and see all the problems that people created for themselves by being so concerned with power over. And then going back to Scotland, which I didn't even address. That's so funny. I meant to say, I'm looking forward to seeing Mary, Queen of Scots, because it's about these two queens. It's two queens. And if I understand the trailer correctly, it's about how they become friends and enemies because they're both interested in having the power. Like, who's going to have the power, right? It's these two beautiful, dynamic, interesting, fascinating women in this battle for power. So I can't wait to see that movie. I'm definitely going to see that movie. Probably I'll do the Queen, the bonus stream for anybody who joins me in Queen. I'll do that on the 26th. I'll probably do it the morning of the 26th. And then I'm going to go see Mary, Queen of Scots, because I can't wait to see that movie. Sarah. Oh my God, Sarah. I love changing tires for dudes who call 911 because they're scared on the freeway. Oh, right. You're a police officer. Oh my gosh, Sarah, that's amazing. Yes, we're all human. We're all human. I do not know how to change a tire, speaking of transparency, but that's a goal of mine in 2019 because I want to be self-sufficient. It's so trippy. Whenever I say something like that, life is like, here you go, here's flat tire. I have found, maybe it's from working with the law of attraction for so long and really learning the power of words, but I do feel like sometimes I make statements about things and the universe is like, here's your first opportunity, like right after. So don't be surprised, y'all, if next time you see me, I'm telling you the story of changing my own tire on the freeway. Yay, Molly Roberts, do the queen. Yes, do the queen. Join us. If you've been thinking about it, this is the time to do it. It's the time. We're going to make it amazing. I'm excited about it. I'm going to have to do that during the 5 weeks you're doing the Queen program. I'm going to have to learn to do that because I said it. So I'm going to make that a thing. Hi, Melissa. I'm getting ready to end this. Oh my gosh, Eric Silvermoon, you are not here. Where did that go? I swear on my life, I just saw Eric Silvermoon. Is Eric here? Oh, he's a queen, Eric. When I first started, before I launched the Queen program, when I was just doing my own private, I should bust it out. It's right on the other side of this wall. When I just did my own private Year of the Queen, 2016, the Year of the Queen. I just did it for myself. And he drew me as a queen. He did an illustration of me as a queen, and then he was working with being the king of his own life. So whenever I hear from Eric, like when he texts me or whatever, I call him King Silvermoon. And it's really important that, yes, this is it. Eric, hi. I don't know if you're still here, but hello, my friend. Hello, my king, King Silvermoon. That's amazing. Yay. I haven't heard from him in a long time. Dina, I was the same way. The universe really was conspiring for me to be independent. My husband refuses to rescue me or really take care of things. Sometimes whole tough love thing so their kids can learn how to take care of themselves. And I do believe, like, especially if you're a person who has codependent tendencies, that it's really important to learn how to be independent. Whoops, I think YouTube is ending this for me. Okay. It's really important to learn how to be independent, but that's not the end. That's not the end game. The next step is to be interdependent, which means you work together. And I will just end this by saying, remember what I was talking about, letting people serve you? This is when you start building out your team, and maybe we'll have to talk about this another time. I'll talk about this on the 26th. I'll save this for the bonus thing, but talking about building out your team, who's going to be on your team? Because when you actually sit down to envision your life and you start looking at all the different realms, okay, my health and fitness, my finances, my home, my kids, my husband, my this, my that, my this and that, it's like, oh, all the things. Well, we are here to be independent, my friend, interdependent, my friends. We are here to work together. People make their livings by being of service, by creating value, and we can tap into that. We can create really powerful friendships with other kings and queens, with people who understand this idea of power from within instead of power over. That's what I mean when I talk about a queen recognizes another queen. Those are the friends you want to have in life. People that understand power from within versus power over. That's how you get out of these frenemy relationships where you're always wondering, like, what did that person mean when they said that? Or are they taking a swipe at me? Are they talking about me behind my back? That's what I'm talking about. Like hooking up with those people, and they exist. The people who have done the work, the people who have gone through a 12-step program and taken it really seriously. It could be a Christian mystic. It could be a witch. It could be somebody who identifies with the king archetype. It's not really about the labels. It's about having a deep sense of inner peace and having a sense of dominion over your own life. Those are the people that I think it's really worth hooking up for. And I am here to serve. Let me serve you. Let me help you. If you want to work with me, join me for the Queen program. If you are a woman and you're interested in this archetype, the link is down below. If you haven't done the free video series, that will give you an awesome head start. It's called You Are a Queen. The link is to that below. And thank you guys so much for joining me for Vlogmas. This was amazing. I think I will look to 2019 to maybe do a few specials like this, because what I do is I'm a podcaster. That's my domain. I definitely identify as a podcaster more than a YouTuber. That's where the bulk of my audience is. That's where the bulk of my coaching clients come from. And that's what's the easiest for me and what I enjoy and what's the most natural. But I really loved this. There was something about this that felt very different to me. So I'm thinking of doing little sprints, like video sprints, like maybe in February coming back on and doing like love streams. It'd be like 14 love streams leading up to Valentine's Day or something like that. So I'm all ears if that sounds fun to you and if you have ideas for that. But this is definitely best done in small batches because 20 days in a row is very challenging. And I made it. I hope you all have an amazing Yule. Oh my God. And I have forgotten every single day to tell you about the Vlogmas special, which is 50% off. Yule is cool in it. Check out, and you can find that down below. Until we meet again, ramble, ramble, ramble. Much love to you.